All right,
Well,
guys. On this week on Comics You Crave, Ryan, what comic did we review? Why don't you let the people know?
we got. I can show it on my screen too.
Oh
We
wow,
got Army of Darkness
man!
from.
How dare you? You stole
So
my
this is.
bit, you son of a beep.
You know what? Fine, and I'll just do the talk. So we have from Dynamite Comics. It comes out March 3rd, which is next week. So we're kind of giving you guys an early preview
I have it
here.
too, Ryan. You jerk.
We're gonna give you guys a week to get this ordered at your comic book shop, or go to Watch Play Read, and we'll put up a link for you to get it ordered right to your house instead.
Yeah.
This is Army of Darkness, Furious Road. It's coming from Dynamite Comics. It's written by Nancy Collins, illustrated by Kieber Ball, and the colors are by Shrimmer's bow.
Oh, nice.
A lot of
Nice.
bows.
Nice.
So,
I'm sure he's gonna be very impressed with your speaking of his name.
you know what? I
Or
would
her, I guess it
really
could be
love
her.
for him to send me the phonetic of how to say his name or her name. I don't know.
If you'd like to be a guest on our show and talk about your wonderful comic and tell us how you properly say your name, we are more than down
Yes.
for that.
So, my first impressions, I actually really liked the artwork in this comic, and I really liked the colors that they used in it. It the lettering is really clear, and it comes out, really nicely. This It's really a quick read.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting more
Well,
meat to it, I
is
guess, a
this
little bit.
is this going to be an ongoing? Is this going to be an ongoing comic? I was trying to look and I saw Volume One, Issue One, so I'm guessing it's going to be an ongoing, which makes sense for the way that this was laid out. But
Yeah, it's
Ryan,
going to be an ongoing. This is
well,
just the first
well,
issue.
I think what you're talking about is the pages were they were a lot of single page splashes. So like one page took up one scene, so you could really blow through the comic book because it was a very action packed scene. Um, every scene was just a really, like I said, action-packed scene, and it took up an entire page, so it was a quick read in that aspect. But to give people a little overview of the comic book, basically, it starts out. It's kind of funny. If you did not know this was an Evil Dead comic, you wouldn't. If it didn't say on the title, you wouldn't even know it's an Evil Dead comic till about three-quarters of the way through it. So it takes
Mhm.
place 25 years from now in Detroit. It looks like deadites have taken over the entire world, or at least Detroit, and it's kind of a mishmash. It's definitely a play on the new Mad Max Fury Road movie.
Yeah.
It's not a direct rip of the movie, but there's definitely, you can tell it was inspired by the movie, and I'm guessing even the
Yeah.
title Furious Road is kind of a play on the Mad Max Fury Road movie. And
I think there's enough tongue in cheek about Furious Road, or
Fury Road,
or
yeah.
Fury Road. I mean,
Well,
so
and I don't want anybody to think this is not a rip-off comic book. They definitely do their own thing, but like Ryan said, it's a tongue-in-cheek. It's more of like a kind of an ode to, a nod to the Fury Road movie in a good way. It starts out with a group of, I don't know, I wouldn't call them misfits, but there's monsters like a Frankenstein, kind of a werewolf guy, a ninja, a nun.
a
There's
nun and a priest
and a
guy.
priest. There's a very interesting cast of characters. They're in cars. They're driving down these deserted streets with deadites chasing them in cars, laughing hysterically. It's really kind of, I mean, it's very strange, but it's a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of The Evil Dead in that aspect, where it's a fun read. Anyway, the first, I don't know, probably what, half of the comic book is one scene of them, of deadites chasing them and them defending, shooting all these deadites in the cars and kind of a car chase and stuff. And like I said, three-quarters of the way, they end up in front of an S-Mart, and then you realize, oh yeah, this is a Evil Dead comic
Yeah,
book.
yeah. Then once they get to the S Mart, then you're like, oh yeah, here comes Ash.
Oh
And
yeah, and
that's when the fun stuff is about to ready to kick in,
yeah,
and
and
it does kick in from that point. I mean, and it does kind of stick to the horror roots of there's a lot of ample amount of blood,
oh yeah,
and gore and all that kind of stuff, and
and
especially when Ash, he got the chainsaw hand, and goes
well,
right through.
and Ash is Ash. He is, this 25 years from now, it's still the good old Ash that we all know and
Yeah.
love. The cool thing I liked about this comic is it is a continuation. I haven't read any of Dynamite's other Ash or Evil Dead series, but it is a continuation. There's a couple little comic notes in there that says, hey, This happened in previous issues, so there is sometimes if you're a fan of the series, this is definitely one that you're gonna, it fits right in with everything else. But another thing I did like about it, it also kind of fits in with the movies and the new Stars show that I just finished watching the first season. This could easily have taken place after that as well, so it fits right into that universe, and it's a very much an Evil Dead Ash. I really enjoyed it a lot. Like you said, there wasn't a lot of story. It was a really fast read. Basically, they're in a car. They're killing deadites, and then they're at S-Mart, and they meet Ash, and that's the end of the comic. So it's not a ton of story.
And they want the book.
And they want the Necronomicon. I wouldn't even call it a knock because it's a good setup issue for what's going forward. It's not a knock. There's not a lot of story, but it's always nice to get just a little bit more story. But as a guy who likes a lot of visual storytelling, I did appreciate the large, full-page splashes where they told a lot of story and had a lot of detail and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed this comic book a lot. I really liked it. I'm a big fan of Ash versus the Evil Dead and the Evil Dead in general. So for me, I would say get this. I was a big fan of it, and I would recommend checking out was it Evil Dead Furious Road?
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness, Furious Road.
And I agree with you, Brian. I've always been a fan of Army of Darkness and the Evil Dead stuff, and it's one of the few horror kind of things that I get into just because of the comedy aspects of it and kind of the over the top, stuff that happens in it, and some of that does happen in this comic too. And if you're a fan of those kind of the series, then this is definitely something that we have to pick up. And I will be reading issue 2 just because
it's a fun comic.
You read it with a grin on your face.
Yeah, it's very tongue in cheek.
And other than Deadpool, there's not a lot of comics that make me do that.
Yeah,
so
it was a fun comic book. In some ways, Ryan, that's actually a good comparison. It reminded me a little bit of a Deadpool comic. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. Like I said, Army of Darkness, Furious Road comes out. What are you saying, next week?
Next week, March 3rd.
Next week, you can pick it up from Dynamite Comics for $3.99, and me and Ryan both say buy this comic.
Yep, get it.
Thumbs up.
It's good.
Since we're already doing it, thumbs up. Screw it. Buy this comic. We recommend it. So.